There are moments in political history when the truth rises to the surface, often to the shock of those who believe they can operate in the shadows forever. Angela Rayner and the Labour Party have learned that truth can be a powerful force, and it has come for them. The recent scandal surrounding the Labour Party's covert attempt to rig the election process exposes a deep and unsettling reality about the party's willingness to cross ethical lines in the pursuit of power. This isn't just a minor political mishap or a case of poor judgment, it's an outright attack on democracy itself, and it demands the harshest scrutiny and accountability. For weeks, whispers of election interference circulated in the halls of Westminster, but many dismissed these concerns as conspiracy theories. Now, with overwhelming evidence laid bare in the public eye, those who chose to ignore the warnings have been proven catastrophically wrong. Behind closed doors, the Labour Party had orchestrated a well-planned and methodical scheme to rig the system, manipulate the election timeline, and ultimately silence their opposition. The plan was so calculated, so brazen, that it's difficult to fathom the audacity of those involved. At the heart of this scandal stands Angela Rayner, a politician who has built her career on the notion of protecting democracy and fair elections. How ironic, then, that it is she who stands accused of undermining those very principles. Rayner and her inner circle exploited legal loopholes, pushed the election timeline to benefit Labour, altered voting rules to give the party a distinct advantage, and created procedural barriers to disqualify opposition candidates, particularly from Reform UK. These were not mistakes, these were deliberate actions, executed with a clear objective to undermine the democratic process and entrench Labour's hold on power. The scale of this manipulation cannot be overstated. Election timelines are not to be moved at the whims of political parties, they are designed to give every participant in the democratic process a fair shot. Changing voting rules to favour one party while pretending these changes are innocuous updates to improve fairness is an outright deception. The use of bureaucratic obstacles to disqualify opposition candidates is nothing less than a violation of the spirit of democracy. The irony of Labour's leadership lecturing the public on transparency and fairness while simultaneously orchestrating a scheme to subvert these values is staggering. What is even more damning is the arrogance with which Rayner and her colleagues believe they could get away with it. The Labour Party's leadership thought they could manipulate the system and keep their dirty secrets hidden. They underestimated the resilience of the opposition and the power of public scrutiny. The resistance was relentless. Opposition parties, watchdog organisations, and even some Labour MPs with a sense of honour refused to allow this scandal to go unnoticed. They demanded transparency, they called for investigations, and they refused to let this corrupt scheme slide by unnoticed. The tipping point came when the legal challenge against the Labour Party's actions reached the courtroom. For Rayner and her allies, this was a battle they never anticipated. They thought they could bury the evidence, dismiss the claims as mere procedural changes, and ride out the storm. But the legal proceedings exposed the truth for all to see. The documents, the internal emails, the digital records, they painted a clear picture of a party willing to manipulate the system for political gain. And in the end, the court saw through the deflection. Justice was served when the Chief Justice rejected Rayner's plea for an appeal, and the scandal was officially exposed to the world. This courtroom defeat was not just a loss for Rayner, it was a defining moment for the Labour Party. No longer could they hide behind the false narrative of fairness or claim that they were simply refining the system. The truth was out, and the consequences of their actions were severe. Rayner, reduced to tears in the courtroom, came face to face with the undeniable reality. The weight of her actions had caught up with her. This was not just a personal failure, it was a failure of the entire party, one that has left their credibility in tatters. This scandal should serve as a wake-up call for all those in power. It's easy to become complacent, to believe that the rules don't apply when you're the ones making the decisions. But the public is watching. The courts are watching. And when the truth comes to light, no amount of political maneuvering or damage control can save you from the consequences. The Labour Party's attempt to rig the system has been exposed, and their failure to respect democratic principles will haunt them for years to come. The broader implications of this scandal are clear. When political parties think they can manipulate the system for their benefit, they undermine the very foundation of democracy. Elections are the bedrock of any democratic society, and once that system is compromised, the legitimacy of the entire political process is called into question. Labour's actions were not just an attack on their opposition, they were an attack on every citizen who believes in free and fair elections. It's time for the party to face the full consequences of their actions. The public has been let down, and the political establishment must be held accountable. Angela Rayner's tears are a small price to pay for the destruction she has caused, but the real punishment must come in the form of political reckoning. This scandal should be the catalyst for a broader conversation about electoral integrity, transparency, and the lengths to which parties will go to secure power. Labour may have thought they could get away with it, but the truth always comes out in the end, and it is always the people who pay the price.